Good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, Christian College of Engineering and Technology, Bhilai, I, Dr. R.H. Gajgat, welcome you all in today's morning session of 1 week faculty development program on 3D printing and design, organized by Department of Mechanical Engineering, Christian College of Engineering and Technology, Bhilai, sponsored and funded by AICT under AICT Training and Learning Atal scheme. Today's invited speaker for this session is Dr. Rahul S. Mulik from IIT Roorkee, who has already joined with us. You are most welcome, sir. It's our honor and privilege to have Dr. Rahul S. Mulik with us, who will deliver a talk on GTAW-based wire arc additive manufacturing of components. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction of our today's speaker, Dr. Rahul S. Mulik. Dr. Rahul S. Mulik is an associate professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering, Mechanical Industrial Engineering at IIT Roorkee. His areas of interest are conventional and non-conventional machining, finishing processes, micro machining, friction stir processing and welding, MMC, rapid prototyping. He has obtained his Master of Technology in Production Engineering from Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad in 2003 and PhD in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Delhi in 2011. He has started his professional journey as engineer at Kirloskar Brothers Limited, Sangli in 1999, and thereafter in 2012, he has joined IIT Roorkee as assistant professor, and he has been promoted to associate professor in 2018. He got the postdoctoral fellowship at École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, Switzerland. He has performed the number of responsibilities at IIT Roorkee. He has awarded by Binani Gold Medal Award at Indian Institute of Metals, Kolkata in 2019. His student, Mr. Nitin Saini, got the OVD Fellowship at University of Alberta, Canada by SCRB. He completed number of research projects funded by SRIC, IIT Roorkee, DST, BHEL, EIL, etc. Many of the students have completed their PhD under his able guidance, and few are going on. He has published a book chapter, Magnetic Abrasive Finishing in Non-Conventional Finishing Technology by Polish Scientific Publishers, PWN, Poland. He has published more than 15 papers in highly referred international journals and presented number of papers in international and national conferences. He got the patent for the device for ultrasonic assisted magnetic abrasive finishing process and process thereof. We are very fortunate to have such an eminent personality with us. Thank you very much, sir, for joining with us. Now, I would like to hand over this session to Dr. Rahul S. Mulik. Over to you, sir. Please, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Adeshamji, for this introduction. I'm happy to be here to present my research work related to our wire arc welding additive manufacturing setup. So, shall I start? Shall I share my screen?
Yeah.
So I will stop my video feed. I mean, sometimes bandwidth sharing is an issue. So
no problem.
I will stop my video. Is this okay for you?
Yeah, pardon?
I will stop my video. Is this okay
no
for
problem.
you?
Yeah.
Sometimes otherwise it creates problem while presenting.
That's okay.
Okay. Is screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Namaskar and good morning to all. So myself, Dr. Rahul S. Moik. I'm working as an associate professor in Department of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering in IIT Roorkee. So this is our main building. I mean, IIT Roorkee was the first technical institute in Asia region. So this building is even standing tall today. So my topic of presentation is gas tungsten arc welding based wire arc additive manufacturing of components, or GTAW. So before I start directly with this arc based additive manufacturing process, just have a introduction. Already you may have gone through this introduction, but still I would like to introduce few things. So there are mainly three types of fundamental fabrication processes. One is subtractive, so where we remove the material. Basically, subtractive is a material removal process. Best example, various machining processes. We take casting from the foundry and we shape the product according to the requirement of the drawing. The help of various machining processes, such as working on lathe machine, milling or drilling, etc. And of course, finishing last. Then formative, like we are deforming the shape. In most of the deforming processes, volume is conserved. I mean, the only shape and size changes. Otherwise, volume remains the same. Most of them, except few processes like forging or maybe some sheet metal processes where we have little loss of volume. Otherwise, most of the deformative processes, volume is conserved. Then we have additive. Here, I mean, wastage of material is negligible to nil. We are adding to the product. So these processes are shown here. Subtractive, like this part is subtracted, then shape is being changed in various formative processes, and additive, like layer by layer we are producing it. So generally now RP methods are called as an additive manufacturing method. So it can be now even popular by the name 3D printing, whatever you name. Basically, this is additive manufacturing or rapid prototyping processes. The popular name in the industry is RP, whereas it is additive manufacturing process. So what we do usually in this processes, first you need to develop, of course, use of computer is essential. Without that, you cannot do these things. So first we need to develop a model, 3D model on a computer or a desktop, or let's say workstation. So this model has to be produced and it has to be converted into certain format, let's say .stl, stereolithography format. Then data has to be transferred to the RP machine. I mean, the STL file has to be corrected, has to be checked for any errors in any RP machine, and RP machine produces the part, and some post-processing, if needed, is carried out. So this is the overall scenario of any additive-based manufacturing process. So this is sequence like solid modeling and tessellation. I mean, triangulation we call it as a. I mean, for example, this is my sphere. This is divided into triangles. This is known as a tessellation. First, solid modeling is done, then it has to be gone through the tessellation, then slicing into different layers. Then one has to generate the tool path, or you can say, if you remember CNC programming, that kind of stuff. Yes, the same concept is there. Then we have to build the product layer by layer, and then we have post-processing, if any. This is general sequence in any additive manufacturing process. I mean, this is essential. Sometimes you may eliminate this, but this is essential. And tool path, is necessary. Slicing is also necessary. Tool path is also necessary. And without that, how you are going to produce the part? Even on CNC machine, for example, I have this product to be machined. So you may generate various tool path like this zigzag option or cross hatch, or I mean, depending on the optimization technique, you follow a particular path. So that tool path has to be followed to build the part. And post-processing, cleaning of the part or removing some strength or core kind of thing. So further, you can see it in this figure. This is my CAD model. So layering is, slicing of the model is done. This tessellation is done here, and slicing of the model. So here you can see this is inbuilt problem. You can see the staircase kind of thing. Staircase kind of thing. So that is inbuilt problem in additive manufacturing process. So many researchers, they are trying their level best to minimize the staircase effect, but this is going to be part of RP process. So we are also working on that. Then we have squaring edges of the model. Then this physical prototype, here you can see this staircase effect is sometimes this is visible to naked eyes. Finished physical prototype you can have. I mean, you need to remove this staircase effect or steps effect. Here I can show you certain products. Yeah, I will switch on. We'll stop this and yeah, I will start my video. This part is produced by SLS, selective laser centering. This is polymer based. Here you can see the staircase effect is visible to naked eyes. I mean, this is inbuilt problem in this RP. We're trying to minimize it. So here you can see staircase effect is visible to naked eyes. Hope this is visible to you. But you know, with the advancement in technology, we are able to minimize it. Otherwise, when I used to work with my professor some 12, 13 years back, so we're having this SLS machine, and that effect was terrible. Even my professor worked in this area. Even today is working in this area, and he wrote so many algorithms to minimize this staircase effect. So this is my final prototype. But why now this process is popular? The reason being, you can develop a CAD model within few hours, depending on the complexity. Part is simple, so within half an hour you can produce it. Then slicing, this tessellation, hardly matter of few seconds to few minutes. All this processing doesn't take that much time, and the data is given to the RP machine. RP machine produces the part depending on the complexity within let's say few minutes to few hours, and let's say within one day my part is ready. So this helps a lot in the product development cycle. This is very much useful in product development cycle. See, earlier I still remember when I used to work in Kirloskar, like there was I was in pumps division, so there was change in design of impeller, some impeller, and what we used to do, I mean, that was produced on the, let's say AutoCAD was there at that time. It was produced on the AutoCAD, then the actual 3D sketch was developed, then it was given to the foundry shop. They produced the casting of that, then it came to the machining shop, and it was machined and finally tested. So it took more than 1 month. So this was because see in shop floor for big industries, even let's say small industry, their schedule is fixed. I mean, disturbing the entire planning schedule is a bit difficult. So the product development cycle was taking big time. But with this RP, you can develop that product within a day. That's possible. Few hours to day. That's quite possible. So that's why this AM, they're popular in this product development organizations, or let's say industries. Let me remind you a word of caution. It's not a mass production machine. RP as on today, it's not a mass production machine. For mass production, you cannot replace casting today, even today. Maybe in the future, with the advancement in technology, that is possible, but casting you cannot replace, because casting, especially sand casting, inherent advantage from few grams to few tons you can go, and variety of the products can be produced. But product development cycle, foundry is not that much useful. RP is having an edge or advantage over this foundry processes. But of course, you cannot replace as on today foundry with anything. For bigger products, size and shape is still limitation for any additive manufacturing process. So we have various RP process or AM processes: solid based, maybe powder, liquid based, solid based, liquid based, and powder based, especially SLS kind of thing, where we are using various polymer powders, polymer powder, or metal powders. Then we have solid. From the solid itself, it is produced. That part I'm going to discuss. So these are solid based rapid prototyping techniques, like laminated object manufacturing. These techniques I'm not going to discuss in detail. I will be limited to my part only. Then we have this FDM, fused deposition method. Of course, this company they are working with certain universities in their countries. Then we have paper lamination technology, then multi-jet modeling system, model maker and pattern master, slicing model, solid manufacturing. Some are China based, but again, they are copying from this Western countries only. The only thing, they use low quality material and the labor is cheap in that China. That's why the price is less as compared to others. But I doubt about technical things. You can go through the internet and you can search for these things. Then we have liquid stereolithography apparatus like SLA. Then we have solid ground curing. A laser path is being scanned and curing is done. As you know, curing is popular term in civil industries, civil engineering industries. Then solid object ultraviolet laser printer. Then EDARTS, rapid prototyping system. Then solid creation system. So many companies, they have developed their own things. Then powder is SLS. SLS is very popular in the industries. Then three-dimensional printing or 3D printing. Then laser engineered net shaping. Laser engineered net shaping. Lens is also popular. But among the all techniques, SLS is even today popular. So certain parts you can see here, complexity of the parts which can be produced. So in these figures you can see, I mean, now almost all complex part can be produced. See, since CNC, we have CNC path with you, you can generate almost any shape. For certain shapes, you need to provide supports in the structure. In case of weak structure, even sometimes you need to use cores as well. Of course, let's discuss certain challenges and promising directions in the field of rapid prototyping or additive manufacturing. Main challenges: geometrical design. As complexity, earlier it was a big issue, complexity of the part, but now researchers working on that, and now we are able to produce certain geometrical features. Then material design, material selection is again a big issue, especially solid based things or powder based things that I will discuss. The computational and interface development, like there are certain errors while transferring the data. So that has to be taken care. So many algorithms are to be written. So that is computation that increases the time. Then manufacturing tools and process development, like ready to use tool development is still a big issue. Like I need certain inserts which can be used directly, but even today we are facing problems for that. So these are elaborated, like here in this slide you can see geometry design for additive manufacturing, multi presentations, following slicing, support generation. These are certain issues. The material design, synthetic heterogeneity, I mean mixing two or different materials. Right now we are trying to work in this domain, but still we are facing certain problem, especially a material like aluminum. You need different techniques of the welding. So especially this is again biological and bio metric composite. This is another area of research. I haven't entered into that domain, but let's say maybe in the future we'll enter in that. And computational tools and interfaces. So open source hardware, process design and simulation, sustainable concerns for additive manufacturing. Everything is sustainable. Say even foundry, it produces the pollution. When you start working with metal, so pollution is bound to happen. There is nothing that you can do. You cannot go to jungle. You cannot quit your lifestyle and go to jungle and stay there. Like in India, we call it as a vanaprasthashram. That's not possible. You need to work. So this is going to happen. But our target is to minimize the pollution. That's what we can work upon. Otherwise, pollution is bound to happen. Then like a designer, manufacturer, end customer, markets, everything is market driven. So now this architectures, they're also using AM methods, architectures, in order to have their scale models, you can say, like how the house or home or the building will look like. They are also demanding this 3D printing machine. They are purchasing such machines are available within few thousand, some 30 to 50,000 rupees. These machines are available. So they are also purchasing these machines for to have just a look. Then biofabrication is still area of research. I have no idea, absolute zero knowledge about this. Then electronic industry, like a printing on the circuit board, PCB printed circuit boards, you can see personal products. Then some certain automotive components. Again, a word of caution: it's not a mass production process, so that has to be dealt with carefully. Maybe in future we can go for a mass production. Then architecture construction, yes, it is there. Now I have seen certain videos that homes are built using 3D techniques. That is quite possible. Then certain small components in aerospace or defense in-house production, like any defense organization is working with a quite secret and it has to work. So certain parts can be produced in-house. That secrecy can be maintained. But again, that issue is that large scale production is a still big dream for us. The shape and size, shape now, let's say not that much challenge, but size is a still challenge today. Like for a bigger size, you need a bigger scale AM machine, so the cost will increase. So future trends, additive manufacturing for desktop fabrication. I mean, on a table itself, you can start producing the things. Press the enter key and start fabrication. So various intersection of products or various different materials, multi-metallic systems, then fragmentation of research investment trends to a print it all paradigm, Like you can give anything, start printing it. The need of rethinking and reorganizing manufacturing. Yeah, this after maybe a certain few decades, things will be changing drastically. Like I remember some 20 years back, I mean, one could do the PhD in the machining, but now if you say you are doing PhD in turning, people will start laughing, because almost all known workpiece material and tool material combination, they are established. Their speed, fit, depth of cut, these three process parameters, they are also established. So what else you can do? If you wish to do PhD in a turning kind of thing, or let's say machining, new material should be there, and coating on a tool material should be different. That's the thing you can do. I mean, your target will be to minimize the tool wear rate. That will be your target. So overall, tool cost will be minimum. Costing will be minimum. This kind of optimization one can work upon. But yeah, even you can not replace machining. That is there. Maybe in not in near future. So these are certain challenges, and based upon all these techniques, we have new set like welding can be used in a RP, field of RP. So welding is really neglected, especially the arc based welding. The concept was, see, what do we do in arc welding? It has to be limited only to melt the base metal and joining. So maybe we can see certain video. Let me show you. Just a moment. So here, we'll share the screen. Yeah, here you can see. See here you can see this tungsten electrode. Arc is being produced and metal is being melted, and some filler metal is also added. See here you can see this is a TIG gun, the tungsten electrode, which is non-consumable type of electrode. First pass is actually more like leave scratch marks like keys or sitting and find smooth machine surface. And here you can see arc is being produced. So the temperature at this interface is maybe more than 5,000 or 6,000 degrees Celsius. With this, you can melt anything, almost anything. That's why welding processes, they are very popular in case of joining of various materials, maybe similar metals or dissimilar metals. That's what we're doing here. The first pass again, just wiggling the cup back and forth. The reason it works so well is it maintains. Here you can see how this metal is being melted. So within few seconds, within microseconds, you can melt anything. Here you can see. It's a good technique if nothing's in the way, and that's the key. If nothing is in your way. See here you can see This is the problem. Like a lot of heat affected zone you can see here. That is quite a big problem. And surface finish, another big issue. Here you can see. See here you can see after 2 to 3 passes, this is a scene. You need to do a lot of work on that finishing. I mean, this is, you can say, L-shaped joint. You're filling this gap. You are adding filler metal. You can see here filler metal. Here you can see in this video, filler metal being added to this gap. I mean, this is joint preparation. We call it as welding. Metal is being filled here. Of course, the metal has to be similar to the base metal. Otherwise, there will be metallurgical issues. See, drop by drop, you can see here the drops, metal drops are seen here. You can see here filler metal drops, you can see here. So before, so generally we have this GTAW or TIG, gas tungsten arc welding or tungsten inert gas welding. Basically, TIG is a more popular name, and we have MIG, metal inert gas welding or gas metal arc welding. So these two techniques are very popular in the industry. Is screen visible to you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it is.
So these two techniques, they are very popular in the industries. So in TIG, electrode is of tungsten. In MIG, it's a metal electrode. So any metal that depends on the base metal. If base metal is, let's say, SS304, the metal electrode should be of SS304 or the nearest composition of SS304, stainless steel 304. That kind of material should be there, because this metal electrode is consumable and that is going into the base metal. In TIG, this non-consumable electrode, it doesn't go into the workpiece. For that, you need a separate filler material. So each process, they have their own advantages and limitations. We'll not go into that detail, but here we prefer TIG because of its life and can be worked continuously. So depending on the base metal, filler material has to be selected. So this is non-consumable electrode, and in both the cases, inert gas like argon has to be used in order to avoid the contamination. See, you have already seen one video. So temperature is high. At this temperature, there are chances that oxygen or the other gases from the surrounding can be absorbed into that molten pool, and it will lead to certain oxides, certain combination with hydrogen. This is not desirable. That weld joint or that joint produced will be defective. So that is of no use. So that's why we prefer inert gas material that surrounding. So that contamination is nil to negligible. So this is about, I mean, like TIG and MIG. These are both arc welding processes. Obviously, they are limited to conducting metals only. That is another issue. Of course, TIG, you know, in case of TIG, you can put any material because TIG is a separate electrode. Feeding wire is not part of any electrical circuit. So that is the advantage of a TIG. So hope this is clear. TIG and MIG, both techniques are very popular in the industry, and the same thing we are exploiting here. So this is basically a group of additive manufacturing processes or a additive manufacturing process in which electric arc is utilized as a heat source. In welding, see what we need: heat source to melt the base metal. In gas welding, you are using oxyacetylene torch. The gas welding is very popular in the India because it's the availability of the acetylene cylinder and the oxygen cylinder, and it is economical. Any roadside mistri can use this. I mean, you don't need a special skilled thing. You don't need electricity. But in case of arc-based welding system, you need electricity supply. But of course, that is also available in India. But every process, they have their its own advantages and limitation. So in any welding process, you need a heat source. Even in friction stir welding, FSW or FSP, friction stir processing, you don't go for a melting point of the material, but here also heat is being produced due to friction. Name is itself indicating friction stir processing. FSW is one of the part of FSP, friction stir processing. So in FSP, we don't go for up to melting point of the base metal. But in case of a arc manufacturing, be it a arc, be it a gas based, we go beyond the melting point. The heat, like in gas welding, it's around maybe 2000 or 3000 degrees Celsius, depending on the type of flame. But in arc temperature, no one could measure today. Even as on today, these are gases only. Temperature may be around 6000, 7000 degrees Celsius. So you can melt anything. So electric arc is utilized as a heat source, and feed wire is utilized as a raw material to build the part. So there are like we have TIG, MIG, or plasma arc welding. You can process different materials like steel, high melting point. Even you can go for titanium as well, no problem in that, because 5000, 6000, you can melt anything, any metal in that. Then we have aluminum, tungsten. Aluminum is typical. Right now we are working on aluminum, and we will get facing certain problems while developing part of aluminum. But still, now we have established, and their alloys, of course. And our next approach is multi-metallic. That also we are looking for it. I mean, because it has so many other aspects, metallurgical aspects, and they are typical one. And since our metallurgy background is very limited, so we are trading in this field very cautiously. So, some advantage like a high energy efficiency. I mean, whatever heat is being produced, most of the heat goes to the workpiece. Relatively low equipment cost. Of course, this is also one of the advantage. TIG, MIG, now we have so many Indian manufacturers that is not that much expensive. Within few lakhs, you can have this TIG or MIG setup, and we don't need a vacuum. That is another advantage or other wire field additive manufacturing technology. We can see in this table comparison gas metal or MIG based wire additive manufacturing, wire arc additive manufacturing, like consumable wire electrode. Here we can see that already we discussed in the TIG-MIG difference, non-consumable electrode with a separate wire field. Here we need a wire field that I will show you in due course of time. Here also we are using non-consumable electrode with separate wire field. Wire field is generally perpendicular to the substrate, like this. Then variable wire field orientation, we can have any orientation. This also gives advantage. So cold metal transfer as a energy source. Then TIG, I mean MIG is used as energy source, TIG is used as a measure, plasma is used as an energy source. So deposition rate in MIG is typical, more. In TIG it is less, and deposition rate in plasma arc welding is more. Here you can see gas metal arc welding. So here electrode itself is a consumable type. This wire is being continuously fed. Then plasma gas, shielding gas has to be there. So this is a little bit expensive kind of setup. That's why this is not that much popular. These two processes are very much popular. Then we have this tungsten electrode, shielding gas, argon gas, arc is being produced, and wire is fed continuously. So I like the similar welding setup, same setup can be used as a additive manufacturing. Here you can see comparison. So this is a schematic setup. We have this gas tungsten arc welding setup. Then we have this CNC table, table controller, and etc. So we have this welding torch, wire is fed continuously, workbench. Then this part is built layer by layer, layer by layer. Wire has to be fed continuously. If it is not fed, only heating of the workpiece will be there. It has to be fed continuously. So this is the schematic of almost all metal arc based techniques. A CNC table has to be there. So here is actual setup. So what has to be done? Like generally CNC table, we have this X and Y movement on a CNC table, and generally Z is along the axis of tool. Let's say it's a CNC, milling kind of CNC or a drilling kind of CNC. We have XY movement on a table, and Z is along the axis of tool. In most of the cases, like maybe milling or drilling. So what we can do, either you control this TIG to a separate controller, and this table and this movement has to be synchronized. If not, then building part will be difficult. So what we did, we contacted one manufacturing company, Gujarat based company. I mean, we floated open tender for this, because this is very typical part in this. Since this project was sponsored by Engineers India Limited, we're having very limited amount of money, and we couldn't afford that much. So what we did, we thought a bit, then we searched, and what we did, we asked for the XYZ movement in a same table. Table can move up and down, X, Y, and like this in all directions. plus minus. I mean, in all direction, table has to be moved. It took a lot of time, but of course, the synchronization cost was eliminated. Otherwise, this tick setup has to be synchronized with this table. That is a bit expensive. Even that some mechatronics part is being involved in that. And see, we are researchers. We are not a manufacturer. So that has to be done by the industry. They have their manpower, techniques, and everything with them. Our target is to develop a technology. So XYZ movement is in one table only. So that part is eliminated. So here in this figure, you can see power supply is there. This is actual CNC table. You can see here, this is CNC table. This is a table control unit. This is a big one. There is nothing, it's empty from inside. Just to have a look, this manufacturer has shown this big table. Otherwise, this is the main thing. Control unit, similar to CNC. A simple program has to be done. Even you can generate that program on any modeling software. In any, that is quite possible. And this is my TIG setup. Here you can see this welding torch, Z positioning attachment. Here, what we did, even Z positioning was quite possible on this TIG setup itself. So we have both Z controls on TIG itself and as well as on the table itself. This is wire feeder. Wire is fed continuously. Welding torch. You can see the entire setup. We have this automatic voltage controller. Otherwise, this is the expensive thing, and this is again, I will not share the details, but this thing, we talked with the supplier, and with the discussion with the supplier, we got this thing. That's why this setup is a little bit expensive as compared to conventional thing. But if there is problem in wire arc based technique, if arc extinguishes, there won't be any layer deposition. So that supply has to be maintained without destabilizing the arc. Otherwise, part produced will be of a different thing. So here you can see the part is being produced. So this is our actual setup. This was funded by Engineers India Limited. So I cannot share much details about it without, certain copyrights activities are there. So I cannot share further details. But of course, these are common things. The figure you can see here. This is the enlarged view. These things are actually there. This part is built. You can see the height. This is one of the mild steel. So this part you can see. You can see here. You can see the different parts. You can see the line by line produced. So our target is to minimize this effect. Of course, we have certain things in our mind. Due to funding, we are not able to do that. Maybe in the future we'll be able to do that. So that this will be minimized, and you will get the smooth part. This is very rough surface. Let me tell you frankly. I'm not hiding anything. RP is not a finishing process. Let me tell you frankly. Somebody is saying that RP is a finishing process. No, it's not. They're lying. See, you can see a part. We have optimized so many process parameters like control voltage. Current is dependent on the voltage. So we cannot say this is an independent parameter. They're dependent. The current depends on the input voltage. What current is drawn in that gap. So voltage, then we have wire feed. That is also very important. Then this table movement. So that has to be synchronized. Otherwise, we won't get any part. So here we tried our level best, and we are able to produce this kind of a product. Height is big. you cannot see any buckling because of height. So this is another advantage. So this parameters are not optimized. You can see here, you can see here holes. These are blowholes. Now produce this part, and we came across this problem, like at the end this kind of blowholes are being produced. So another, I mean, for that you need to read the fundamentals thing again. We read the casting problems, welding problems, why these blowholes are there. See, because contamination, I mean entry of oxygen into that domain, or entry of atmospheric gases into that domain. So then later on we came to know that argon was not that much pure. So of course we are using industrial scale argon. Laboratory scale argon is expensive, I mean twice as the commercial, but for research purpose we use the lab based, I mean 99.99 purity argon. A little bit expensive, like for commercial cylinder is around 2,500, for laboratory it is around 5,000 or 6,000 rupees per cylinder, and one cylinder is required to produce 3-4 products. So you can imagine, but for research purpose we produce this high purity argon. Otherwise you will see this kind of defects. First we were not able to understand why this defect is there. We tried to optimize the process parameter, this, and still defect was there. Then we realized, when we studied the basics, so basic fundamentals are necessary, otherwise keep shooting in the air, you won't get anything. So here you can see the best part which we're able to produce. So of course a surface is rough. Here you can see surface is rough, but still better as compared to this and this. These are actual parts which can be produced. Of course, later on you need to cut this portion, the cutter. That you can call it as a limitation or whatever. So you need to produce the part excess by, let's say 3 to 4 mm. That is there. So before going to working principle, let me discuss few things more. So this is basically in a research domain still, the STIG or MIG based RP. So what is being used in current scenario? Metal powders. Various metal powders are there. They are being scanned by laser. Curing takes place, diffusion takes place, curing takes place, and part is being produced. But metal powders, they are very expensive. See, you might be familiar with the term mesh number. Let's say higher is 1200 mesh number. The diameter, the average diameter of that particle may be around 12 microns. If more, 200 mesh number size, still less. This has to be checked, 12 or 6, I'm not sure. So higher the mesh number, average diameter is the less. So as you go on higher and higher mesh size, the cost of producing metal powders increases. How these are produced? We have ball milling process. Big particles are to be crushed in the ball milling. It takes some 2 to 3 days to get from, let's say 600 to 2400 or 1200 mesh kind of thing. 36 hours or 48 hours are required. Continuously they are to be crushed. Again, there is certain loss in that. So that crushing is there. Then you are crushing like steel powder. Then in order to avoid contamination, the elements which are used to crush, I mean the balls which are crushing them has to be of a similar kind of material. So there are so many limitations in this in order to minimize the contamination. So this fine and fine particle cost is higher. This is main limitation with this metal powders. So especially if you have a high temperature melting metals and alloys, this cost of crushing will be more. If hardness is more, cost will be more. So aluminum crushing may not be that much expensive, but steel or material like a titanium is expensive. Even you can ask in the market, higher the mesh size, cost will be more. For few grams, it may be few thousands. That's there. Even if you produce on an industrial scale. Well, see, purity has to be maintained. If no purity, part produced will be defective. So some foreign particles may enter in your product. So that is not desirable. So again, similar defects are there which are in casting or welding. So that has to be taken care. So that's why TIG or MIG based techniques, they are now finding the attention of researchers. This is the reason. And moreover, in wire based, almost, I mean, we haven't seen any loss. Most of the wire goes into the product. The loss is nil to negligible. Some wire may be lost due to radiation because of higher temperature, but majority wire goes into the product. So in that way, we can save a lot of material. This wire is again not that much expensive. A spool of, let's say, how much it was, 1.2 mm spool. Still we are using it. Hardly 2,500 rupees. You can produce so many parts in that. So the material cost comes down drastically in case of TIG or MIG. So that's the advantage, especially in TIG. That's the advantage. That's why we are replacing the expensive metal powders in the wire. So let's see the working principle. Like, so first you identify the part which has to be produced, then replicate the part in form of certain CAD model, computer aided drawing, or can be directly interpreted from in form of G codes. Say in any CNC machine, you are using G and M codes in any CNC program. The same concept is being used. What we did, we used a CNC table, CNC program for toolpath generation. So according to numerical code control, control codes, the movement of table will be guided under the electrode. So high purity argon is used as shielding gas in order to avoid the contamination from the various atmospheric gases. So oxygen is there, CO2 is there, nitrogen is there, hydrogen is there. We need to minimize. Otherwise, see what happens. If hydrogen is entrapped in that weld pool, there will be hydrogen embrittlement. The product will crack. Cracks will be initiated. So that has to be avoided. So with the deposition of each layer, the height of product increases, which is referred as a build direction. So here we can already we have seen this build direction moving upwards. To maintain the same thermal history across the build direction, it is essential that arc must not extinguish. This is what I discussed. Otherwise, it will lead to certain metallurgical defects. See, thermal history in the sense, let's say right now, Roorkee, the current temperature is around, let's say 16 degrees Celsius. Even if I start working in a summer, the surrounding temperature, let's say assume 35 degrees Celsius, like a day temperature I'm talking about. So let's say from 30 degrees Celsius, all of a sudden you are going to few thousand degrees Celsius. So obviously this is thermal shock. But since we're doing it continuously, base metal is continuously being given a heat supply. supply. So that defects come down drastically, which is evident from the scanning electron micrographs that I'm going to show you. So if that arc extinguishes in between, there will be change in temperature. Temperature gradient will be much higher, and that may cause certain defects. Like we have HAZ, heat affected zone, which is very popular in is unpopular in welding. Delta T is more from let's say 30 degrees Celsius to you're going to a few thousand degrees Celsius. A thermal shock is being induced in the workpiece where base metal is melted purely. There won't be any HAZ. That will be somewhere adjacent between solid and liquid zone, if affected zone. So that will be highly thermally induced stresses, and that is a defective part. Of course, HAZ is unavoidable in any welding processes. There are several things to minimize this HAZ, like we go for a post welding heat treatment to minimize the induced stresses. So that's why we are using this arc voltage control, which is being installed. So we have this build direction, Z, X and Y. Like a rectangular cross section product is to be produced, let's say 100 mm by 100 mm. Deposition will follow the path A, B, C, D. Like we have either this direction or this direction, it doesn't matter, because let's say this is square, so tool path generation doesn't matter, and it's hollow, so you can this direction or that direction, it doesn't matter. So optimization in this case, it doesn't require. This path has to be followed, A, B, C, D, like this tool path, and part will be generated. Here you can see the part is being produced. This is Y movement, this is X movement, and this is Z movement. Generally, we don't have these all three movements combined in one table. We need separate 3 servo motors for that. So in case of a, let's say, circular cross section, you need to produce like this, clockwise or anti-clockwise. That doesn't make any difference. So here, functions of automatic voltage controller, in order to see how it works, let me tell you. Simple things in welding. Like if you observe any workpiece under microscope, you will find this waviness pattern, or this, if waviness is more, surface roughness or RA value will be more. Nothing is flat. Flat is a theoretical definition. Surface is not perfect flat. That is theoretical definition. If you observe any workpiece surface under microscope, waviness you can find. So in welding, there is a gap between two electrode and workpiece. So what happens? Once we start the supply voltage, current is basically flow of electrons. What happens? The electrons at this point, they try to jump this, but sometimes gap is more. This gap is in like few mm. So these electrons, they collide with the atoms and molecules of the surrounding air. Let's say in this case argon. To further liberate the electrons, and process continues until arc is established. So this is general understanding of any welding process. So whenever there is minimum gap, arc will be established. So this is a random phenomenon. Generation of arc is a random phenomenon. Whenever there is a minimum gap, arc will be established. So this arc should not be extinguished. So that is the purpose of automatic voltage controller. It has to look for the minimum gap continuously. So here we have this welding torch assembly. This is wire feed. Fixture mounted to adjustable side. This is our indigenously, we have developed our own. Since we are not industry, we have to develop whatever available with us. These are adjustable sides in order to maintain the voltage. Here you can see part is being built layer by layer. Layers are visible here with naked eyes. So wire is being continuously built. So the function of AVC is to automatically control the arc length while the beads of welding are being formed. So it should not extinguish during the process. It is a continuous working process. Like even this kind of part, it took 2 to 3 hours to establish. I mean to develop. A fixture is developed to mount the adjustable slide over the CNC table on which substrate or the base plate is placed. Here you can see base plate. The adjustable slide controls the Z-axis movement of a TIG welding torch, which in turn adds up to the height of the product being produced. So here we got advantage that Z is on both table as well as on this torch. So function of AVC, automatic voltage controller, since it is electrical part, I will not go into that detail, is automatic controlling of the arc length during the welding process. Whereas the process physics behind welding, I have already explained. The two key parameters on which AVC works is sampling voltage and the comparison voltage. Now, what should be the input and what is actual required? So the once arc is established, the downward movement of the torch is stopped and it starts move to upward till the arc length. The sufficient arc length is established. I mean, that is the function of AVC. The arc is established after the arc starts delay and reaches the stable state. Work that's why this statement is there. It starts moving upward till the stable arc length is achieved. The AVC control system senses the arc voltage and establishes the reference value called as the sampling voltage. So at this stage, wire starts to come out from the nozzle and adjusted below the welding torch as shown in this figure. Here you can see the wire is there and the temperature is sufficient. Wire starts melting due to temperature generated by the arc and deposition process starts on the substrate plate. Here you can see this is my substrate plate. Once metal is melted, so drop by drop part is being built like this. That we have already seen in one video, commercial video, which was available on YouTube. So this is basically metal droplet system. So depending on the voltage adjustment, we can have this, and of course diameter of wire. Less is the diameter, droplet size will be less. And deposition starts. So during the process of part building, automatic voltage controller continuously collect the arc voltage called as comparison voltage. If the difference between the sampling voltage and the arc voltage is more than response sensitivity, the system automatically makes the adjustment to the arc length. That's the advantage of this AVC, automatic voltage controller. A remote control is provided to start or stop the process when required. I mean, you can start it, you can stop it manually as well. Once the process is started, the system automatically controls the vertical movement of the torch as well as feed of the wire through programmable logic controller, PLC. So again, PLC and everything that is electronics part, I will not go into that detail because I don't know much about that thing. The thing is, which I understand, process is being controlled automatically. So this arc doesn't extinguishes unless we stop it manually or in case of any, otherwise it keeps continuing the part building. So wire arc additive manufacturing is layer by layer, bed, let's say in terms of building, bed over bed, in which after each layer of welding, another pass of welding is done over a previously deposited layer. So with each layer of formation, the height of product increases, as we have seen with AVC, until the TIG welding torch automatically make the adjustment of height through the adjustment slide. So response time of the AVC is also an important parameter, and it should be minimum possible. If response time taken is too much, then arc may extinguish. Like we have certain process capabilities, like the maximum length and width of the product can be 300 mm by 300 mm in this setup. Although larger stroke values of X and Y axis limit can be increased, but as on today, we have this limitation. The maximum height that can be produced through the currently developed VAM setup is summation of Z axis stroke limit and since table, let's say 300 plus that, let's say 100 mm more. So let's say we can go up to, with this setup, we can go up to 550 mm. So this is quite a big thing, 300 mm by 300 mm by 550 mm. Uh, 30 mm, I mean 30 centimeter, 1 feet, you can say, 1 feet ho gaya isme, 1 feet by almost 1.5, or let's say touching to 2 feet. So that is a big thing. Again, so metal consumptions will be there, but this much maximum part can be produced. So that is there. This is one of the big achievements. So it is basically low carbon steel alloy or mild steel, you can say. Used we have used mild steel, stainless steel. Right now we are working on a aluminum, and next target will be mixed metallic. For welding of steels, it has high amount of deoxidizers in it. Commercially available wire is used as received. So that is basically bought out item. So 0.8 mm diameter is used. Even you can go up to 0.6 mm or 1.2 mm. That depend on your requirement. So in this case, with this 0.8 mm, we got a slice thickness of a 1 mm, you can say. So this is chemical composition of this mild steel, and even filler metal is of a similar. This is filler metal, basically chemical composition and the mechanical properties they are shown. We are not adding separately filler metal. This is the filler metal, and tungsten electrode is there, which is of non-consumable. So let's say what we did, this 100 mm by 100 X and Y and 200 mm height was built on substrate. So these are like current in amperes, which was drawn, travel speed, gas flow rate, and wire speed is being mentioned here. Of course, there is a range depending on the requirement. We have, this is the best thing we have available for this combination. For that, you need to do a lot of experimentation. And again, since it is welding, you need shielding and everything. I mean, that should not be trouble to your. You cannot watch this process with naked eyes. That's not advisable. So this is my built part. Then again, one need to do a lot of testing, whether part is produced as per requirement or not. So there are STM standards for that. You need to produce the samples accordingly. So what we did, we have taken the part from various portion of this workpiece in order to study the impact. See, at this end, there will be temperature difference here and here. So that may affect the performance of the product. So that's why we started testing, like Charpy toughness test, and usual tensile testing. We have certain ASTM standards for that. We cut out the sample from the workpiece. Then of course, some metallurgical studies, optical micrographs. This optical as received. Then at last build or first build, and different CDs middle build at different magnification. So from this, like, you need to do study for this. There should not be any such a defect. Here we are able to find certain perlite and ferrite. This is due to the heat treatment is also taking place. Those material is being built continuously. So thermal or residual stresses, what we expect are bare minimum. Still we are working in that area. I mean, experimentation validation. Certain porosity defect can be seen. This is due to not that much pure argon. So some defects can be seen. Otherwise, here you cannot see these defects. Then certain grain size variation was there across the build direction, last build and middle build. There is a little bit grain variation. Like this was the microstructure study. I mean, the microstructure of the last build surface has a mixture of acicular and polygonal ferrite with very less amount of secondary perlite phase, while only fine polygonal ferrite phase with very small amount of lamellar perlite phase is found. I mean, this is, in layman's language, this is quite acceptable. Otherwise, in welding, you have a lot of heat affected zone. So the main reason for this difference is that middle passes undergo post heating and effect during the repeated passes, or the last pass has faster cooling rate. So middle pass has less cooling rate. The grain size is considered one of the most prominent microstructure that affect the mechanical properties. A big difference in average grain size is noticed between the last and middle build passes. So these are the tensile results, like across the build direction, along the build direction, we have checked both. So there is no much difference in this, and even this is comparable with the base material. So we are not losing any strength in this. So these are acceptable results. You can see dimples here, tear ridges. Ductile failure can be seen. So micro hardness is also being tested. So little variation, the reason being the faster cooling rate of last build. So these are certain observations. So observed micro morphological features and a fracture surface, both directions are found to be in good agreement with their tensile test results. I mean, these are the clear indications confirming the higher ductility for across the build specimen. This is very important. Otherwise, heat affected zone is extremely brittle. This is not a requirement, especially in case of a steel which is ductile. So we can say that build specimen, that along the build specimen, tensile strength and Churphy toughness remained approximately constant. This is one of the best thing we observed in this process. So of course, there is a difference in microstructure at due to multi passes, and there was a little bit difference in mechanical properties. So we can here safely conclude that uniform microstructure and mechanical properties have been achieved throughout the build surface except for the last pass. So anyway, I mean, if you want to minimize that, you can build it extra 2 to 3 mm and you can cut it. So any process, they have their limitations and advantages, and they are to be taken care of. But the main thing, the ductility remain constant, which is more advantage, and we can safely predict that residual stresses are bare minimum, and that won't affect the functioning of the part to that extent. And within few hours, like within 2 to 3 hours, product was ready. And of course, we have saved a lot of material cost. That is another advantage. Ductility is being maintained, tensile strength is being maintained, toughness is being maintained. So all properties of the base material, they are almost retained. So that is another advantage. So this is all about my presentation. These are certain references, and thank you.
Hello. Dear participants, if you have any query, please you can ask, or you can post in chat box also.
Yes, yes.
So I think there are no queries. So thank you very much, sir.
Later on, they can contact me through my email as well, in case.
Your email and
someone is
that mobile number is given there.
Preferred mode is email communication.
Yeah. So thank you very much, sir, for sparing your precious time and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. This session was
Thank you for giving me opportunity.
Interesting and informative. You have given a good information about this additive manufacturing, which is based on that is the wire arc additive manufacturing.
Wire arc.
It is very useful, and it's I think its construction is also very simple. You have shown the setup.
Yeah, that's not the only expensive part is AVC.
Yeah. So
that is giving advantage over MIG.
Yeah. So I'm sure that all the participants would have been benefited by this session. And also I would like to thank all the participants and participants for joining and attending the whole session. So thank you all again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for patience listening. So shall I quit?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.